Hello, everybody, and welcome to our special on the road SummerSlam review. I'm John Pollock. To my right, he is the man live in the flesh here in Cleveland, Wai Ting, who has, he has once again turned this closet into a studio. I have watched this man just labor over this over the last 30 minutes. Also, you can see us crystal clear, hear us in beautiful, succinct tones. Wai Ting is the man.
I'm hoping we are crystal clear. There are always a lot of questions when you're doing recordings outside of your usual places. Like we don't really know what sort of internet speed to expect. A lot of things we don't know. I'm trying out a new microphone, so let us know in the chat room if you're watching live, everybody, how we sound, how we look, if we're clear enough. So yeah, thank you all for being here. A lot of you guys.
We're gonna do our best, but so far so good. We're gonna go into SummerSlam, and then we also checked out the press conference. I did not attend the press conference.
Oh, you didn't?
I did not make it to the press conference. Wait, no.
That explains why you're here.
That's why I'm here.
So
I mean, we ended up benefiting from this, but yes, I was told due to it was at capacity, and I was again odd man out. I did not go. Brandon Thurston went to the press conference. Did not get a question in, unfortunately. But yes, that was unfortunate. It's one of the discussions that I think Wai and I will have more in terms of like what are we getting out of being at these when it is a bit of a crapshoot. I'm mainly going for the press conference, and when it's not a guarantee that I'm going to get in, then it does become a question of like what is the best utilization of our time. Now in this case, how did you find the setup at Cleveland Browns Stadium for us?
At this point, it's pretty typical of like any sort of event center, but at a stadium center, we kind of know what to expect, especially in like the northern part of the country. It's the press box. You're behind glass, so it's really not ideal for pro wrestling because we don't really get to hear the crowd. But I'll say this was a huge improvement because we got audio that was actually in sync with what was happening in the ring. So that was a plus.
Amazing.
Yeah. Like honestly, anytime like we're going to one of these things, people I think get the impression that like we're like I don't know in the front rows or something. I actually struggle really hard every single time we go to one of these just to even get like a decent view of like the on camera. Like I'm trying to load up the network sometimes just to kind of watch the on camera version. In order to just even do this job. So yeah, it's a bit difficult, but I also recognize that not every media member is there to even watch the show. Some of them are just there to do the press conference. Some of them are just there to write like, I don't know, like a 10 paragraph story for like the local paper. So they kind of have to accommodate everybody.
Everyone has different needs. Yeah. It's like, it comes with it. But with that, I think we also I feel bad because you're going on my account and it's
not just that. I mean, but
it's a lot harder for us to do these shows by going physically to a stadium or an arena and doing it. There's a plus when we being there in person. There's some positives, right. But you remove the press conference and it kind of does become like for us when we realized we're not going to the press conference, it was us leaving the stadium before the main event, because had we stayed till the end, we wouldn't be doing the show till that many more hours later, where it was going to be a total mad scramble getting out of that stadium with 50,000 people. And instead, we left an hour early. We're home here in 15 minutes.
We can go live right after the
and we
press
could go
conference.
live right now.
Yeah.
So it's a question that we can have. The press conference is it's a separate discussion. It's I don't want to complain about the fact, but it's frustrating at the same time for me. I don't put myself on some giant pedestal, but I do feel that I deserve a seat now in these press conferences. One seat, I do feel at this stage of my career, if I'm not getting that, I at least want to know in advance, and they probably can't provide that. So it's that's the game we play, and if that's not there, then why are we going to these events?
Yeah, I guess I would just love to know before we actually commit to go
exactly
or not.
Exactly. If we know in advance, then great, it's fair. But we don't know until we arrive what the status is, and that greatly affects our trip. It's people like Brandon Thurston, he is literally Like, he is not doing a podcast after running down the show. He's not writing an article on the show. The guy is literally spending like putting a whole budget together to ask a question. That's his whole purpose of being here. And, you know, that, and for him, he got into the press conference. That's great. You're not always going to get called on. That does come with it.
But that's tricky too. Like, just to kind of play devil's advocate, it's just because you spend the money to go here and you get credentialed doesn't necessarily mean they owe you a question. Now, do they at least, should you feel?
I'm not saying owe a question. I guess it's just the access to the press conference. If there's that much media, then I just think that it's advantageous to know in advance.
Yeah, sure.
Like a clear understanding. Hey,
are we getting the media?
You get your approval X amount of weeks in advance. Hey, we have got our list for media. You're not going to be able to get press conference access. Okay, we're 3 weeks out. Right. We can make adjustments accordingly. But anyway, that's us talking about in our world. Let's get into the show itself. How have you enjoyed the city so far?
So we've been to Cleveland together
twice.
Yeah. The first time was for the CM Punk fight,
and the second time was for the CM Punk fight.
We went to Cleveland 2 times before this.
No, twice including this.
Oh yeah. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Was there like another CM Punk fight?
No, not in Cleveland.
First time we came was for the Mickey Gall fight, his UFC debut,
and that AIW show we went to.
That's correct. Yeah. So that was like 2016.
Yes.
And like we didn't have the best time in Cleveland at that time, you know, like it was a combination of like, I guess not really knowing exactly where to go then, and I think staying in the wrong part of town. So we didn't leave Cleveland with I think the greatest impression of it. My opinion on Cleveland is completely different this time. I had a great time in the city in the short time I've been here.
I have loved this trip. The last time we were here, we were in an area of the city where it was just like not a whole lot of options and stuff, and obviously we didn't have the time to really navigate and check out the city this time around. I wish we had an extra night here.
We didn't have that much time either, but like we
maxed our time here.
Like, and I know there are plenty of things I want to come back to actually visit now.
Yeah, like today we hit this awesome breakfast spot. We went to the beach. We got to check out Sandfest 2024. And then we made our way out to Mabel's Barbecue with the great Davey Portman, where I took home half our meal on my lap. And then we made our way to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And then it was time to go to the stadium. So it was a pretty packed day.
Great day.
Yeah, I had a great time.
I do feel bad for you mainly because I know like there's so much of this is like, you know, you're building up to going to the press conference and hopefully getting a question for somebody just to make, I think, but personally, it doesn't matter to me. Like, I just want to make sure my friend, you know, is happy.
Listen, it's not the end of the world. No one's crying. Nobody is losing any sleep over my press conference ability or not. It is like the main focus of these shows for me is to go. Because I'm thinking just as well, like I'm not dragging, but you know what I mean? It's a lot of extra work for you to go to the show. And I see how much you have to like, deal with, note taking, and you're navigating all of this stuff that we have to get ready. So it's like, it's a big ask, and I'm bringing you along for this too. So I feel guilty that I have nothing at the end of it that we're aiming for, but
no,
I mean, this happens. Like we're used to this stuff, and it happens.
Well, we get to enjoy the city, is what we get. I got plenty out of it, for that reason. So if we're here anyway, like
listen, we had a great, like press conference aside, like the fact that we got out of that stadium, like getting out of these stadiums has become the bane of our existence. Like WrestleMania was like, night one was just like torture. It was torture getting out of that parking lot, and the fact that we avoided all that, we were here. We're doing this at like, well before 1 a.m. that we thought would be our earliest that we'd be going live. So not too many complaints. In terms of the stadium itself, it's obviously it's like it's an NFL stadium, and I mean, I can't say I got to like really venture around and see too much of it. We were confined to the media area, but it was totally fine. Like I
honestly don't have that much to say about the experience.
It wasn't anything that like jumped out at me as like, oh my god, like did you see?
Well, we didn't even go to the concourse, so it's hard to really say how.
And that's usually a favorite pastime of yours, is just disappearing. Sure. Brandon asking what happened to Wai, and in my head I'm sure he will be back. I always know he's going to return, but you can leave for a few hours and then return. So anyway, there was a 3-hour pre-show. that we saw none of. But it included Maurice appearing
Was
on.
it 3 hours?
Yeah.
Started at 4 o'clock?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
3-hour pre-show. That's what they promoted. Maurice was there. CM Punk interview that aired. I guess you caught some bits and pieces of the Punk
I just
interview.
caught the second half, which was like all in character stuff, but you heard some buzz that it was really good.
I just heard some people online that said it was like it was worth checking out, but I had not seen it. And I guess the news from the pre-show, at least, they did have Joe Tessitore there to officially be named the head of the Raw broadcast team beginning September 2nd, and they'll be moving Michael Cole over to SmackDown. So in theory, that would mean Tessitore with Pat McAfee. Although this segment, I just heard a brief clip, and I don't know if they're going to mix up the teams any more than that, or just Cole goes with Graves and Barrett, or what if that stays a 3-man booth. And Tessitore and Pat McAfee, that's a interesting team. I don't know if that will work or not.
I suspect they would move either like one of the veterans, like a Graves, over. If
could you see Raw being the 3-man team? Because I think Raw could use that third person, whether it be a Barrett or a Graves.
Yeah, I think they need the person who's the full timer, who's been around wrestling, their whole life.
I could see that happening.
And Graves at this point is sort of like a leader. He's the sort of right hand man to Michael Cole.
What a weird run for him, going from like color, he turns into play-by-play, and imagine if he's on in the 3rd-man role. Like the guy is just like the utility player.
And that's why he's I think has the role that he has. He's obviously dependent upon.
I don't think enough people have appreciated how he made that transition to play-by-play and did it. Like there were the first few weeks that you could see it was an adjustment period, but man, he hit it, and it's not like
did a good job, but it's not his best utilization. He did a good job of, I think, maintaining. But you want somebody who's amazing. Now, is Joe Tessitore going to be amazing? That remains to be seen. But he's got name value attached to him.
He's coming in with a lot more optimism than like an Adnan Burke or like others, even than Jimmy Smith. I think Joe Tessitore, they're really pushing, and it's fact that he is, he has followed this for a long time, but that doesn't always translate to being. Like, we'll see. He's a great broadcaster for boxing, for college football, and he's a wrestling fan. So there's a lot of positives there. And yeah, we'll see.
I'm excited to see this one, because this doesn't seem to me like it's a what's the dude's name? American Gladiators.
Mike Adamle?
This doesn't seem like it's a Mike Adamle hire, nor an Adnan Burke hire. Like just given what I've heard of this guy's pro wrestling sort of knowledge base that exists already.
Yeah. I'm more optimistic on him than I had some others in similar roles.
So I do want to mention, I made my way over to the check-in, and I got to experience a bit of the sort of village that typically tends to form around these arenas during these like big events. And like they've set up a lot of things. Like, so one of the things is for this particular show, the kickoff panel was actually housed outside. So you can gather around and just like, be in the background and watch it. You can, obviously they have merch stands that are crazy. Something notable I found, and this was incredibly simple, but they had tents set up where you can design your own sign, and where they're actually encouraging fans. They had their sort of fluorescent cardboard papers out there with markers, and they were just encouraging fans to, create their own signs.
If you notice, like there was 1 week they made a big pitch for it on TV about creating, so like obviously they want signs, like they want people making signs.
They made video packages for the live shows that they air during commercials.
That's it.
Telling you to
they
bring
clearly from the aesthetic, they want that crazy sea of signs, and maybe they felt like people were getting away from them. Like that was the theory, that with like the rise of like your phones and stuff, like people stopped making signs and stuff like that. They would tweet something, but they clearly are making a big effort, and they've been doing that for some time.
Saw a NXT tent like that was promoting the CW move. And then your typical sponsorships things like the Gin and Juice had a booth, C4 had a booth, Prime had a booth. So
it was a lot tonight, and I've been pretty like I don't give a big care about the addition of sponsorships, but it did feel very heavy tonight, just the addition of it. And when you think about a year ago, there was none. No, I shouldn't say none. They were slowly introducing them, but it's just, I'm watching it now. It's like this will be the UFC mat within a year. Like It is just they're piling up the logos, and it's a lot. And I don't sense too much like pushback from fans
I don't
either.
think any.
But it is like pretty.
I think in wrestling you have the opportunity to like have more fun with your product integrations, like we saw with Manscaped, tonight.
Was that fun?
It got a big reaction.
Okay.
In the press box. But there
were a lot of reactions in the press box.
I couldn't hear the crowd through the glass, but I could hear the members of the press that were screaming and cheering and clapping throughout the night. So I had a good assessment of the show.
I've never heard a chorus of barks as Braun Breaker received.
Right. Yes.
So tonight, the commentators, Michael Cole, Pat McAfee, and Corey Graves, and Jelly Roll performs God Bless America. And this was before they got the commentary playing, so I was listening through the glass. So take that for what you will. What I could hear through the glass, he sounded really good. Like this sounded, what?
Through the glass, he sounded
dude, honestly, I saw some negativity towards Jelly Roll. I was worried tonight that was going to eat up like there'd be all these big gaps because this concert was going to be coming. They got done with the concert immediately, and then he came in for like a fun segment with Miz and R-Truth, and you could tell he was really into this. And if anything had me on the fence, our Uber driver's testimony for Jelly Roll put me over the top. That this guy I thought was like for a celebrity, I thought that he absolutely did not wear out his welcome here on this show. And this is like a big name for them to have. It's a current star that
he's from Cleveland.
Like I thought they did really well with this. And if you were not into like seeing a concert or anything, like this was not to me overstepping where it was like we had to stop for like a 10-minute medley or something late in the show and you just want to get to the main event. There was none of that. Like I thought it was fine on this show.
I feel like this regime, like all their moves has been pretty indicative of like people who recognize how the audience feels about certain things like musical acts during a show. Oftentimes they just like in the middle of a show, they feel kind of unwelcome because they kill the flow of the wrestling match. A lot of us are here to see the wrestling, and because music is so subjective, you're going to alienate automatically a giant portion of whatever audience, even if it's the most popular artist in the world. So this almost felt like honestly a bit of an obligation, and therefore perhaps shoving it at the very beginning of the show is going to be the best move. Getting him to do God Bless America is like, I think the ultimate babyface role you could have for a musician. So at that point, it's like, no one's going to get pissed off. It's his hometown. They kind of used it in place of the opening video package anyway, where you typically just have a long song with like highlights on top of it. So I thought it was like a good placement for this sort of role.
It's worth noting as well that the man himself, Paul Levesque, coming out to introduce the show, like really putting the stamp on the show. Like a Paul Levesque produced show is about to be consumed by all of these fans. And we had on the canvas, we had, of course, the Prime logo. We had Wingstop, and we had Straight Talk Wireless. No bullshit. Straight Talk Wireless.
Okay, yes.
Straight Talk. The Miz is just perched in the crowd as the host and kind of throws to the first match. Very little of Miz too on this show. It's not like they flooded this show with like interstitials with the Miz. He did this, and he did the attendance announcement and a segment.
There's really no need for a host of any of these pay-per-views. And typically at this point, it just kind of means like one real appearance, on the show.
Yeah. Like on a WWE show, I'm just always tuned to the fact that like it's all that stuff that it's all gonna add up. Like they are the slowest paced shows. Like it's just 7 matches. I was like, this could go till midnight for all we know. Yeah. So anyway, they kept that stuff like pretty quick and tight. Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley opens the show for the Women's Championship, and you have Rhea Ripley out with Dominic. And early on, we're doing a cat and mouse game with Liv running away until Rhea fakes going to the floor when Liv climbs in and gets caught. And that's when Liv is hit with a number of short arm clotheslines. Rhea tries for a riptide very early, but Liv stops her and attacks the previously injured shoulder, which Rhea sells like she's dislocated the shoulder and has re-injured it.
She screams, "It's out! It's out!"
The famous words of Samoa Joe.
I guess so, yes. This one a bit more believable.
So she is working with one arm as Liv attacks it with an arm wringer, double knees to the shoulder.
We should also note that they've instituted the ref cam, the good old Pride and other sports.
WCW, the referee.
The ref, yes. They did not call it the referee, I believe.
Yes,
they called it the ref cam.
There was a shot where the referee, I guess it was on Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
We go to the like grainy footage of the referee cam, and it's scanning CM Punk, and I don't have the man's name here, but God knows he got enough attention with this tweet, and he just tweets Jack Perry's POV over this footage of like CM Punk dead staring into this referee cam. You have to see the tweet, but it was
so again, like the Leaf fitting effect, perhaps we can
which was a term we did hear used tonight
Yes.
by a WWE official.
That's right. Yeah.
The Leaf fitting effect.
I don't know how much, like, I've never liked these referee cams. I think they're kind of a neat novelty, especially if
The footage is also garbage. Like when you see like these pristine, like you're watching this in like 4K, and then we go to this referee cam that looks like it's on my goddamn Nokia phone.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, we're doing the show off my phone, okay? Like,
And it's better quality than you saw in this referee cam. Like that was my always thing. It was like the footage just looked garbage.
I know.
And they always tried to do these in MMA. They did them in hockey, and they've done them in wrestling.
Yeah, you're telling me like through like I don't know 30 years of incredible advancement in technology, we can't get a better referee cam with like HD quality or something like that.
Yeah, that's we'll see. I was never a fan of these, but everyone always tries after. Like, imagine if we could see from the perspective of the ref. I'm like, I've got a great view. So Dom is checking on Rhea, and Liv misses Rhea as Dom shoves her out of the way, and Liv dives on top of Dominic. So this would be one of those spots that wouldn't exactly make sense by the end. How Dom saved Rhea, and
Sometimes you got to just make the sacrifice play in order to, you know.
mind games.
Yeah.
Mind games.
Yeah.
So Rhea, in her first re-securing of her arm, drives the arm into the announcer's desk and pops the shoulder back into place.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Didn't Ray do it for his eye? Like, didn't when the eye came out?
What? Put his eye back in by shoving it?
Yeah. Am I thinking of a movie or something instead?
Yeah, I don't know what you're thinking of. I don't remember Ray jabbing his eye into the desk.
I'm just trying to.
Joe might have, or Seth might have tried that.
Yeah, I'm just. Wait, okay, so if the eye came out, I'm just thinking back to the eye dislocation. Did it ever go back? How did it go back in?
The eye never went back in.
Well,
In
obviously.
story, he had one eye.
What?
Ray.
Eventually, it was popped back in, I have to think. Because if it's.
They never explained that. He wore the mask for months with one eye.
Well, you could be blinded, but your eye's still there while it's healing. I don't think it came out. Like, I don't think it stayed out. I'm pretty. Chat room, let us know. I'm pretty sure, like, okay, eye popped out. It's out. And then I have to think, like, I don't know if the match ended or if he popped the eye back in. This is all just I'm trying to just think about it because Rhea Ripley decided to re-pop her own shoulder in by ramming into the thing. I thought it was a little too much. As I talk about it,
man, just shoving his eye back in and putting it back into place.
I'm totally cool with, like, I think it's believable to sell a dislocation, but when you're popping it back in by ramming yourself into an announce desk and all of a sudden, like, you're fine enough to wrestle, I don't know.
She also did it multiple times. I thought the one was fine, but then she did it again when she popped the arm back out and she had to put it back in. She was like TJ Dillashaw here, like in his last fight where he had to, his arm just like popped out.
Brian saying the match ended when the eye popped out. Okay, so I guess they popped it back in.
The question was, did he ever have it put back in? Like, I don't think they never explained the eye just growing back on its own.
I don't think it grew back.
To the point, I told you that story that Matt Camp shared about when they did an interview with Ray with the wrong mask on, so they had to put a graphic up and just say on the phone with Ray because they could not show him with the mask that we show his eye was there.
Okay,
and that was months later.
Right, interesting.
So
anyway, maybe he put stem cells into the eye.
Liv gets out of the prism lock and hits a crucifix bomb, drilling the shoulder into the mat upon impact. So Rhea's arm is popped out again, and she's jamming it into the middle turnbuckle, then puts it back in, grabs a chair, and Rhea goes to use the chair when Dominic rips it away. I thought this was a great spot because everyone's like, oh no, Dom. And then obviously, he has the deniability here. He's protecting Rhea from getting disqualified.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great spot. And Liv then drop kicks Rhea into Dominic and hits an Oblivion major near fall. Like, everyone bit on that as the finish. and Dom gets on the apron and he's warning the referee about the chair. This is pretty much a same way Liv beat Becky for the title that they brought up. And this time, with the ref talking to Dominic, Liv hits an oblivion on top of the chair, pinning Rhea in 15 minutes and 53 seconds. So you're thinking at the end of the match is you have these two questionable issues that Dominic committed, but he has defenses for them.
Although he did give a smirk immediately after the match result.
The smirk was the
giveaway.
deadpan, like the shot.
Yeah.
And then you know what's about to come because Dom lifts up Liv on the floor and proceeds to kiss her. And this place went insane for this.
Okay.
And he places the title on Liv, leaves with her, and Rhea is left seething in the ring. Pat McAfee, I can't remember if we had commentary by this point, but I could still hear it because everyone was playing the network. It sounded like he went like too overboard.
He called him a piece of shit.
He called him a piece of shit. And
which was uncensored.
It was uncensored, yes. So
was that what was too overboard? Did somebody?
I just felt he was just reacting in such a way that it was almost like
too fake.
It was too comical,
right?
Like the way he was reacting, rather than it like just letting it breathe.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it was interesting to watch this show. This audience, they were here for storyline payoffs more than they were for wrestling match quality.
That's kind of the WWE product.
It kind of is, but they've also like the in-ring quality has also there's more of an emphasis now under Levesque than it was prior. But like this audience, it was about seeing Roman coming back. It was about seeing the Dom and Liv. Are they together? Like the storylines, like all of that, the bracelet. Like this was about payoffs to stories, and those got the biggest reactions on the show, and that was the case. I thought they had a pretty good opener. I thought the crowd was really into a lot of the near falls, and I think it's a very important follow-up for Rhea because Rhea cannot be the I'm heartbroken over the loss of Dominic character. I really don't think that's where you want to play it. And I think also you want to have Rhea be like this dominant force and really keep the focus on this is Liv and Rhea's story and Dominic is like a piece to it and not like the mastermind of it all. Like it's a very interesting balancing act because I think a lot of people see these as like strong women, whether they are babyface or heel, in this program where Dominic is not like the overarching like power in the equation.
Sure, yeah. I thought the match was captivating. Like, and I wasn't the biggest fan of the dislocation and then relocation, I guess. But it did give you
it reattached.
Very good. It did give you like a really, easy to follow story throughout the entire match. Rhea Ripley, babyface going in here, even though she's like so much more powerful than Liv Morgan, is handicapped by an injured shoulder that she had to work throughout the match. I thought that all of that worked out really well. It was easy to understand and allowed Liv Morgan to work a bit more aggressively than she usually does. I thought maybe I didn't expect them. Okay, so I understand wanting Rhea to be the sympathetic one who gets cheated on, who gets broken up with, right? I also think
she was on the verge of tears in the ring. That was the shot. She's seething, but she's holding back tears.
I get wanting to book the babyface in as that character, but to me, Rhea Ripley should have seen all of this coming because she's a smart general type of character.
I think that's the contrast to this is that she is that always manipulated Dominic too and was the one
to me like she should have been revealed as somebody who expected this and was actually playing Dom the entire time. And yes, like I think you could have still found another way to get heat on Dominic and have him get the upper hand, despite all that. But I kind of felt like Rhea needed to be portrayed to be a little bit smarter than just the person who got cheated on both like in the relationship and also in the match by Dominic. Maybe they'll do an explanation afterwards.
I think Raw is going to be completely focused on Judgment Day, and we'll talk about more because there's a lot more to come with the group on this show. Damian Priest is furious backstage, storming into the clubhouse and immediately accuses Finn Balor if he knew about this because he's been watching TV. He knows all the hints.
Yeah,
and
so.
Dominic is called a prick by Damian Priest. So we were just letting the language fly on this show.
Yeah.
That piece of shit prick.
Yeah. So it was Balor kind of like, you know, doing a very slow like tease of trying to lead the audience on into thinking that he's not telling the whole truth.
Yes, and you're probably, well, we'll get into more with Balor. Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker was second. By the way, for those that are listening free, we did a show on Saturday morning on the Post Wrestling Cafe, more so on our road trip, but we gave our thoughts on the Sami Zayn comedy show from Friday night. If you want to hear our thoughts, we had a lot of them about the Sami Zayn comedy show. Good, bad, there were examples of it on the comedy show. So if you want to check that out, I encourage you to jump onto the cafe.
Yeah, I don't exactly know how many Sami Zayn and Friends reviews are out there. We might be one of the few, at least in podcast form. But you can hear our thoughts of a show that
you can take our phones, but you can't take our minds.
Okay. Yes. So that's up at the Pro Wrestling Cafe right now.
All right. So Zayn and Breaker for the Intercontinental Championship. Breaker goes for the no hands Frankensteiner / Breakensteiner and gets a 2 count. Braun is just yelling at him to quit. And then Zayn lifts Breaker for a backbreaker and nearly like dumps him on the back. And he has to flip over, landing on his feet. Blue Thunder Bomb is hit. And then an exploder sends Braun into the corner. He sets up for the haluva, but is cut off with a spear. The straps come down. He hits a second spear, and he pins Sami Zayn in 5 minutes and 40 seconds. This would be the shortest match on the show. And they also had a Legends suite that was containing both Rick and Scott Steiner, who they showed reacting. I don't know. I'm going to venture to guess that Rick was not told the finish of this match because he seemed genuinely like impressed or surprised.
Sure.
I don't see why they would tell him in advance anyway, especially if they knew they'd be shooting him. So would not surprise me. Nash was there. Sean Waltman was there.
Jackie. Miss Jackie.
Oh, was she there? I did not see her.
Jackie
okay,
Moore.
she was there. DDP was there.
DDP was there, and Izzy Dame was there. WWE legend. She's dating Braun Breaker. That's why she was with Rick Steiner.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
The legends.
Yeah. That's who we could see. There could have been more coming in and out. We should also mention like a note from the press conference that Cody mentioned was that they sent an internal memo out to all the talent instructing, I guess, all the talent members who the legends were that were going to be in attendance, including photos and bios. And Cody seemed to suggest that they were encouraging especially maybe younger talent to go out.
They sent them like a one-page or like a bio on like who they are and what you, and like that's a very interesting. There would have been a time, and not all that long ago, that if you were a younger talent and did not know some of these talents, like that would be heat magnet right there. And now from this, like they have the impression that some of our performers are in their early 20s. Yeah, they don't
NIL athletes who might have never grown up. Watching this.
That was an interesting note. That
but the fact that they would take that effort to, I guess, like I don't know, promote sort of the respect for the older generation, I think is kind of cool.
Short match. Braun Breaker wins, and this was a lot shorter than I was expecting it to be. A lot more one-sided than I thought it was going to be, and also found Braun Breaker to be really interesting on the post-show portion because I would assume a Braun Breaker would just be full-on in character. This was also on the panel as opposed to in front of the media. And, he's not the most comfortable public speaker. I thought that was actually kind of charming with him as well. Like he was trying to just be kind of himself here, very, like totally drop into character, praise Sami Zayn. And I thought it just came off as like, a guy that was just trying to speak genuinely. And in this presser post-show setting, I think that's a real positive when people just come across like that.
So I do find like the pre-show and the post-shows to be pretty interesting because I think they're continuing to evolve with every single iteration. This one was not just a straight up like post-show press conference. They were going back and forth between the press conference and then the panel, and then sometimes even video packages in between. And when they kind of gave you like, sometimes it was a bit of an awkward mix because you would get like out of character things with clearly in character things like Drew McIntyre,
right,
and then like Braun Breaker sounded like an out of character voice. It was his genuine voice. It was not his Scott Steiner impression, but the words he was saying I think you could almost interpret as in character. Now, he did sound totally like a babyface, like somebody who was just genuinely happy that he won. But it was also like kind of phrasing, even the praise for Sami as like, I want to thank Sami for giving me an opportunity at the championship. I'm somebody who's young. He didn't have to do that. Like, that's still kind of in character stuff.
Yeah.
But I do also I just hear it all, and I think, what is their direction with the character beyond this? Is this supposed to be something we're supposed to pay attention to follow the progression of the narrative, or is it something he's improvising that's supposed to be out non-canon?
I think that's the goal with everyone is you get to where Cody Rhodes is. Like, you listen, Cody Rhodes at this press conference. This is a fully in character interview.
Yeah, seamless. Like, he can go back and forth between real and fake.
I think like all of it, and he just adds these little lines that he knows are gonna like I might get in trouble for saying this,
right?
And then he goes on to say like, yeah, PR sent out a one pager. It's like, yeah, that's very daring there to go for, or says, I'm not supposed to say this as a baby face. He is perfect. He is perfect in this role.
It helps that he has a character that's essentially him. Some guys don't have that.
It is, but it's like you listen to him and he's introducing it as almost like hey, we're going to drop the facade here. But it's just a full storyline explanation that like, me and Roman are here and there can only be one main guy.
Sure.
He hurts. I'm scared to face him because he hits hard.
Yeah.
He shoots in there, brother.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like he's got that, and he had that long before WWE. Like, he has that ability, and that's like, if you've heard one Cody Rhodes interview, like, like he has this down to a science.
But it was a very unique Braun Breaker on camera appearance, I guess we could say.
Once again, Stephanie McMahon shown in the front row.
Yeah.
She wasn't sitting with anyone.
Oh, okay.
There were two empties next to her. I was like, did she just come on her own?
I'm assuming maybe they were out for a bathroom break. Perhaps.
Okay, could have been.
But yeah, we didn't really talk about the match itself. Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't have a whole lot to add to it. I mean, it was really just a short match, and it was almost as though title change, it's like Money in the Bank never happened.
I think they obviously wanted to save a bigger stage for Braun's win. I think they might have just wanted to give Sami a big win in Canada as well, just to kind of maintain his presence in the country.
And there's a way to just say, listen, I underestimated him, and like George St. Pierre losing to Matt Serra, and he comes back, and that changed his career, and he was unstoppable after that loss. And
that's okay.
So
yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I think on a 7-card show that's going 4 hours, it's fine to have a 5-minute one where you're supposed to put the guy over clean anyway. Crowd was really into Braun. Like, they treated him as somebody who has that Goldberg type of aura and intensity, and they've really done a great job with him from the moment he was called up from the main roster to now. I would say, like, he's a much more serious and I think interesting character now than he was down in NXT.
Yeah, he can play a very effective heel, but he could be a babyface tomorrow if they wanted him to be.
Yep.
That's when Stephanie is showing. He was at Sean Ross Sapp asked Paul Levesque just about her status. She has no role with the company, and the most interesting line Paul Levesque used is that she loves this industry. Sometimes it's been hard to love this industry, but now it's easier to love this industry. Something to that effect. I might be missing a word or two, but essentially she is really enjoying the product now, and she's at home being a mom, but never say never.
Yes, right.
Yeah. So Logan Paul, LA Knight next for the United States Championship. Logan Paul, I don't want to get into all of the stuff with Logan Paul these past weeks, but like we would be remiss, not past weeks, but past couple of days
we should. It's newsworthy.
Involving the Olympic boxer. But I mean, Logan Paul put out a tweet that was just like grossly misinformed, and this thing has spread. This has become such a gigantic political issue. Like, I think Donald Trump spoke about it today at his rally in Atlanta. And Logan Paul, he was the first I saw of this, and basically was accusing a female boxer of being transgendered who was born a female. And this is just, he semi-walked this back. He didn't like apologize, but he did understand he did spread misinformation.
Yeah, he said, I, like a lot of people on this platform, are guilty of spreading false information.
Right, yes.
But maintain that he doesn't believe transgendered people should be competing against, I guess, cisgendered people.
Yeah. which this was not the case in this particular boxing fight. But anyway, it was a major story to the point that I was like interested to see like what I didn't feel like that. I don't know. I didn't get a good read of the crowd like that. Like people were necessarily like.
I thought the crowd was going to boo Logan Paul anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know if like whether or not the people were aware of it affected like the reception he had. He's supposed to be booed anyway, so
Yeah.
I don't think we could really tell. From
It wouldn't have been able to get a good.
But now online, like if he had won, I think we would have found out a lot more backlash, in my opinion, online at least.
He is joined by Machine Gun Kelly, who's back.
Also from Cleveland.
Also from Cleveland, yes.
Who was at the Guardians game yesterday.
That's right. We left because we had to get to the Sami Zayn show in the bottom of the 8th, so we missed the fireworks that Machine Gun Kelly introduced as well. So we could have had a double shot of Machine Gun Kelly over 2 nights.
Yes, we could have, yes.
Aren't we left wanting?
We'll have to come back for it, yeah.
So Knight is in the back. He destroys the Prime vehicle, knocking out the windows, and then we make our way to the ring where they battle on the floor. Paul is sent into the hydration station, and it rams Paul's head into the desk repeatedly, and then lifts him onto his shoulders and hits a neck breaker onto the desk, which did not break. And Graves asked if that hurt Knight as much as it did Logan Paul. Probably. They just both took back bumps on this hard desk. And then they finally get into the ring, and somewhere in all of this, Logan Paul had developed this mouse under his right eye, auditioning for Unforgiven 2001.
Plenty of...
His eye looked terrible, and Levesque said he was kind of dinged up from this. I imagine it was eye-related, but it could have been something else too. Anyway, Paul takes over, does some very athletic stuff, does that leg drop into the splits, which look goddamn painful. Corey Graves then says, Logan is controversial. That's what he does. He gets the world talking.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's your fault for talking about him. So LA Knight fights back. He hits a running knee into the corner. We're kind of just going back and forth here. And then this really builds up when Logan Paul hits a springboard clothesline and follows with this incredible springboard moonsault to the floor. He did this flawlessly. He shifted in midair, and when he hit that rope, he hit this gorgeous moonsault. This was maybe the most athletic spot on the show.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
I thought that looked great. And then Knight tries the BFT in the ring. It's stopped, and then Paul, after missing with the right hand, lands with it, but it only generates a 2 count. The blunt force trauma is blocked as Paul holds onto the rope, and then Knight gets into it with Logan Paul's buddies in the front row.
Well, there's a big spot, I thought, here, where Knight did an avalanche brainbuster, and it looked like...
I think he was going for a superplex, and
yeah,
it like turned into a brainbuster because he came down rough.
The rotation wasn't full, and it looked like he landed very high angle.
Yeah, and you know what? When Hunter said he was like, that could have been a spot too, where he, like, yeah. So that spot was very scary looking. They're on the floor, and Machine Gun Kelly passes the brass knucks over to Logan Paul, who nails LA Knight as Knight lifts up Logan Paul. And then Knight just gets right back up from these knuck shots and ducks a buckshot lariat, hitting the blunt force trauma, and wins in 12 minutes and 4 seconds. It was noted by many people that Paul's foot was under the bottom rope after when the pin was made.
Is that right? Okay.
So they could use that as an out, or they could just be sending people into something they didn't follow up on.
Yeah, I was waiting for commentary, and please correct me in the chat room if I'm wrong, and we both missed it, but I was waiting for commentary to mention something about the brass knuckles. Could it have been that they weren't brass and that they were some lesser material that Machine Gun Kelly happened to just have around his neck? Because I can't really come up with...
If that was the case, then Machine Gun Kelly should have posed with LA Knight and showed that it was a plan, because they did nothing. I think you're giving way too much leeway.
No, because
it felt like LA Knight just completely no-sold the brass
knuckles. It makes no
knucks.
sense for anybody to no-sell brass knuckles.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen that before.
Like, he popped right back up as though they were fake. I mean, your idea actually wouldn't have been that bad, and it proves like Machine Gun Kelly gets the babyface reaction, but they did none of that afterwards. It was just LA Knight celebrates with the title. I just thought it was like a pretty contrived ending, but big pop. A title change is always going to get the big pop, and I think they saw like the end of Logan Paul's reign as something significant here. LA Knight was popular. I thought Logan Paul looked good at several of the athletic spots. I wouldn't say this was a great match, but the audience was into this one for a good portion of it.
They were very into it to me because I think they were really into wanting to see Logan Paul lose, and they were really into wanting to see LA Knight win. Yeah. To me, LA Knight and Jey Uso, despite not having a match on the show or any role on the show, just being around town and just kind of being around the wrestling fans around town, I felt those two were the biggest names in the city. Like, we were eating barbecue today, and the man just kind of comes in, yells, "Yeah!" And the whole, like, you know, I don't think he was that successful, but like at getting a response. But other places, you just hear "yeah" like all throughout the city. You're hearing "yeet" everywhere, you know. So
are we gonna hear Braun's "Where are my dogs"?
That one I don't know.
He was so lucky that those fans at that late hour barked with him, because that could have been silenced, because that, I don't think the audience is trained for that one.
Yeah.
But they were on.
But they like barking. So they really liked LA Knight. Like you mentioned, really good athleticism displayed by both guys throughout the match. Logan Paul, despite what you might think of him as an in-ring performer, still can pull off like really moves you still don't expect him to do. And
dude, this guy's a tremendous athlete. Like, he is tremendous.
And I think Knight's gotten a lot more dynamic and compelling to watch in the ring. Now, I don't know if that's because he's just more over and the crowd's more into him.
Okay, I think he's passable in the role. I don't think his like bell to bell is ever going to blow us away, but it's like he's over and he's perfectly serviceable in the role. But there is a spot. He's balanced on the second turnbuckle, and he jumps to the top turnbuckle and jumps off. And Michael Cole's LA Knight introducing a new wrinkle to his game. Like, the man jumped from one rope to the next. Wow. And I was like, if that's the bar.
Hey, man, if Ric Flair did that, we'd go crazy.
Michael Cole was amazed. He was like you saw a 450 out of this guy.
But gives Knight his big moment. You know, after constant teasing from Logan that he doesn't have a career-defining moment, he finally gets his career-defining moment.
And if anything, I was very impressed with him not anything revelatory, but just seeing him in these media settings and seeing him at that Sami Zayn show. Yeah. Man, try to carry a pretty like rough segment. Like, the guy is very talented in a lot of roles that WWE wants to put these people in their pushed performers. He's great in terms of that guy that can go out on behalf of the company.
Remember a year ago was like when he won the Slim Jim thing?
That's right. And that was like the first sign of like getting behind him.
Yeah. I think in that time, like, because I remember him being in the press conference last year and like he was good, but I think that like he's that much more seasoned doing like, you know, these sort of media things. To the point now, and his aura has really grown despite, you know, what he mentioned, maybe having a bit of a waning period after losing to Roman Reigns. I think it's back up there, and he feels like he's maintained a constant presence in the upper card. I would say even lower main event level now.
Then we had the Manscaped ad with Apollo Crews having his head shaved, where Baron Corbin came in to assist, and then Otis, Tozawa, and Maxine came in, and Otis, I think, was about to shave his balls.
He was teasing it.
He was teasing
as everybody was saying, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't that one of the attributes?
I don't know if he was using the right tool. I think you have to use the right tool. But instead he was shaving the hair on his big belly. Yes. Now, I don't know where it was, what the reaction was.
Could this be an attack? Could Chad Gable and the Creeds attack the Wyatt Six and Dexter Lumis after those 18 months of growing out those dreads? He gets Manscaped.
Yeah, that would be quite the ad integration. Yeah. Now, I don't know about your section of the media room, because John and I at that point, we could just kind of split up. I wanted to sit closer to a TV where I could actually hear. So
you needed a break from me.
No, but you were sitting next to Brandon. I don't know. Was Brandon Thurston going crazy for the Manscaped shaving?
He was surprisingly quiet during the Manscaped ad.
In my section, like it was like the Sami Zayn comedy show. People were laughing.
Me and Brandon, one of us would have eyes on the sponsor, and the other would be looking it up to learn about this company. The video game here, dude, we were just going through
like a big reaction to the Otis shaving his stomach here. So I would classify this as a funny and good integration of their product. It's certainly better than their stickers ads and some of like the, you know, I don't know, kind of.
There's a Wingstop ad they did with Braun Strowman and Rey Mysterio that has to be seen.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just saw a 30-second ad on Twitter or on YouTube, and it was, I mean, I want you to see it.
Okay.
So then we go to Bayley and Nia Jax for the World Women's Championship, presented by Valorant, which is a video game, I hear. It's available on some console. Nia goes for a stink face in the corner, and Jax is in control, misses the leg drop off the middle turnbuckle, so Bayley hits a Bayley to belly, and Jax survives this. And the crowd was not into the first half of this. It kind of picked up as Bayley stopped Nia on, as she's going for the Annihilator, lifts her up and carries her to the center of the ring and power bombs her. And the place went nuts for that power bomb spot by Bayley. Hits an elbow, only gets a 2 count, and then Tiffany Stratton runs down with her new briefcase that was given to her by Nia Jax. Now, I didn't understand this because Bayley was on offense when she ran down here for this cash-in tease.
Okay. Yeah.
Was it just to be ringside? Like, she was not in a vulnerable position, like she could cash in on the champion. So I didn't really understand this one because she got onto the apron and Bayley just knocked her out, and she was never a factor for the rest of it.
Maybe she was waiting a long time for Bayley to be down, but it never came. Now, okay, let's think about this. All right, we're trying to think about Tiffany Stratton's mindset upon cashing in and why she decided to cash in at the moment that she cashed in. Okay. So you're suggesting that she was waiting for a moment where Bayley was down, but then Nia would have been there. So then what would you have done?
Okay, here's my theory, and you'll appreciate this one. Maybe she's like, okay, Nia is selling right now. This runway is about 5 minutes long to get down. This was the longest walk. This aisle was so damn long.
Stadium size runway.
Maybe she thought by the time I get down there, Bayley's going to be down. The tables will turn.
But no matter who's down, unless there was a double down, it would make sense for her to come out then. But I mean, can a double down last for 5 minutes?
I feel this was strictly to get a pop.
It was. Yeah.
Like, there was no logic attached.
We're not supposed to be thinking that deep.
Okay, well, that's how I think. So she runs down, she gets knocked out. There's a pop-up powerbomb by Nia, follows with a powerbomb and hits 2 Annihilators, pinning Bayley in 12 minutes and 32 seconds. And I think this was on camera, but Otta Johnson, The Rock's mother, was in the front row, and Nia went up to hug her afterward. I thought Nia was actually really good in the press conference. Not to say we got like these great answers or anything.
You were expecting... I was expecting
angry Queen Nia Jax and insulting the fans. And instead it was like, she seemed like really happy and she was very open.
She was out of character, or at least like genuine.
It's exactly like the mix I think that you have to be happy with. Is like they're meeting them halfway here. They're not playing full character, but they're not like...
I sense that they are encouraging their talents to be themselves in moments of like genuine celebration. You see it with the drafts when people get called up from NXT. They're completely out of character. They're obviously they're not told that they're called up, and they put the camera on him, they put the microphone on him, and they just want like the sports college draft type of reaction. And I think they want the same thing when somebody wins a significant championship. Yeah. They want them to just speak as themselves because they consider that good television.
She got an interesting question about winning the Queen of the Ring in Saudi Arabia, a place that women could not even wrestle in several years ago. So it was nonetheless. I didn't think this match like stood out in a big way. I think Nia has definitely, this run she has improved, and a lot of people seem very surprised at this title change. I thought this was one of the locks for the show. It just seemed everything was poised for a Nia Jax win here. And I think that the shift was a needed one. I don't think this Bayley title reign was able to meet.
It's been disappointing.
I don't think she had like a really great dance partner during this time. And it didn't click in a big way. And I think they were ready to shift focus here and put it on a heel.
I almost get the sense like, okay, you wanted to have Bayley win at Mania, but I really do feel like she was almost winning just to set up Nia later on. I I don't think Nia's really become that much better of a technical wrestler in the time that she's come back.
She's not, but she's learned how to play like monster heel a lot better.
She's been a better character, and she's been booked way better, and she's been able to use her size, I think, more effectively this time around. Where like she's a consistent sort of standout, meaning like there's only one Nia Jax like archetype, and Piper Niven isn't even close, as the other sort of like, monster heel in the division. She's maintained a strong status in the division since she's come back. And it made for like usually captivating matches when you can have an underdog babyface go up against, a monster heel. The running powerbomb was sort of, to me, the peak of the babyface in this match for Bayley. And so she got a really nice moment out of that. And we now have a dynamic where Tiffany Stratton has the briefcase, but she's also basically friends with Nia Jax and partners with Nia Jax.
Which I'll say, like these two being paired together, like I have seen. Like, it just feels like two odd ends put together on TV. Like, there's been nothing on the TV that I associate any kind of relationship. And in like 3 minutes at this press conference, these two sold me on like their best friends backstage. And it was like, okay, there's an association here that this will, like, obviously at some point you have to do the cash in. And I think it'll, like, that should be way down the road. And
it's almost like when Diesel won the IC title and Shawn didn't have a championship, and I forget how they broke up. Honestly, it's been a while, but like they're gonna play the jealousy angle throughout, and it's whenever Tiffany Stratton does, I think she has to cash in on Nia.
Oh yeah, she'll be the heel in that.
Yeah, so it'll make Tiffany that much of a bigger heel, and you might be possibly pivoting to a Nia Jax babyface run coming out of this.
For many people, the main event of the show, Drew McIntyre, CM Punk was next, and this place, I mean, they were electric when they announced this match coming up next, and we've got Seth Rollins out in his referee outfit,
like a bedazzled, referee outfit.
We had CM Punk representing Bret Hart.
Yep.
Very much so. Very subtle. And Drew McIntyre representing Drew McIntyre.
I guess he was the Undertaker in this equation.
Sure. I guess so. And we have the referee cam here. And when Seth signals for the bell, the place, they were going nuts for this.
This was the people's main event.
Like, this was the most anticipated match on the show. To the point that, as we had stated, if you didn't have Roman coming back, I think you could have, I don't know if you necessarily closed the show with this, but this was hot enough that this was the hottest match on the show, I thought, coming in.
I do also think like they want to set a precedent for like whenever a championship is a justifiable main event, one of the 4 championships will main event the show.
So they fight on the floor. Rollins isn't counting, and Drew's head is rammed into the steps and then catapults Punk's throat from under the ring, and then Drew takes over. They're exchanging open hand slaps. Drew goes to get a chair, and Rollins rips it away. And you've just got the visual that everybody was, it's like Bret and Undertaker with Shawn from 97. And in case this wasn't subtle enough, Michael Cole, shades of 97. Tell me more, Michael Cole. Okay. I don't get it.
I think you need to, though. You need to spell it out because there are people that weren't born in 1997.
Do they need to get it?
Yeah, I do.
Why?
Because I think
if you get it, great.
I think it's kind of, it encourages people to look it up and become deeper or just appreciate the spot more if they kind of do it. They could have just, I guess, found it on the internet and it would have been fine.
What if they did a picture-in-picture and just showed us exactly what happened 27 years ago?
At least it didn't bother me that he pointed it out.
It's fine. It's fine. So, yeah, Drew pie faces him, and Rollins goes to swing the chair. But unlike 1997, Rollins pulls up and does not hit Punk with the chair. And he turns his back with the chair as Punk gets a roll-up, and Rollins is late to the count, and thus Drew survives. And Drew pulls out the bracelet and puts it on, calls for the Claymore, but is cut off with a drop kick, and CM Punk hitting 3 Blue Justice knees. Shout out Yuji Nagata. Then he comes off the top with an elbow, blows a kiss to Rollins, gets a 2 count. Then goes to the Tenzon library with the Anaconda Vice, and while he's got the Anaconda Vice on, he removes the bracelet.
He sees the wrist.
He sees the wrist, gives up on the hold to take the bracelet. Folks, this was one of the loudest pops of the entire show, was removing this bracelet from a man's wrist. I was shocked. I was shocked at how loud this was. He just pulled it off his wrist.
It's not just a bracelet, though. It's like, you know, to him...
It technically is a bracelet. Like, it doesn't mean anything that you don't have the bracelet, technically. So but they've taught you it means the world to this guy.
This whole feud has been an exercise in, like, giving tremendous value to something that has no value. You know, like, this is a cheap bracelet given to him by a fan, but they've attached so much meaning to it that by the time it appears in a match like this, it means everything in the world. It says it's the Infinity Gauntlet at this point.
So he gets the vaunted bracelet back, but he has given up the hold in doing so. And as he turns around, he is hit with a Claymore for a big near fall. And then Drew goes for the future shock, but misses, and Drew is sent into his shoulder is sent into the post. I did not keep track of how many running into the shoulders being run into the post happened on the show, but people were literally tweeting me thinking that I must have been losing my mind. So there had to have been a goddamn many on this show. There were a lot. Then the GTS is called for, but he sees that Seth Rollins, in the whole scramble, the bracelet ended up on the ground. So the referee, Rollins, picks it up and he put it on his wrist, and Punk spots him. And he assumes, you've stolen my wife and my dog. Yeah. And he has to stop. So he goes after Rollins and he's arguing with him. And Drew attacks him from behind. I think this bracelet is officially, it's too much of a vice on CM Punk.
It's a bit more valuable than any championship he's ever won. Yes.
So the future shock is countered and he hits the GTS. He has the cover, but Rollins is down after his interaction with
Drew attacked them, basically.
Drew hit Punk into Rollins, so Rollins is down, returns for a 2 count, and Punk is pissed at the count being late, and he gets right into Rollins' face and yells at him, quote, "I don't care about your stupid Sabu pants." Just quite the line.
I couldn't hear that.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And Seth comes back yelling, "This is my ring, my rules, my company. We don't need you here." And then Seth gets hit with a GTS and Punk takes the bracelet back and in his parting shot at Rollins says, "It isn't always about me, but it's never about you." And he then turns around and Drew kicks him in the balls. And this whole 50,000 seat audience felt that their genitals had been compromised too. And the Claymore is hit and Rollins crawls over, counting 3 at 16 minutes and 58 seconds. And in the best part of this was Drew takes the bracelet back. And with the bracelet. And
after all this, he still
stands on top of Punk. Yeah. I saw a lot of different opinions of this match. I thought they did kind of settle into things in the middle. They were super hot for the beginning. They were super hot for the ending. And they were super hot for the bracelet. The criticism I saw was there was a lot of exposition and acting in this end part. And I think that's what it comes down to. Was it too much dialogue for you? There was a lot of it to tell their story, literally tell you their story. I enjoyed, though, this presentation. And by the end of it, I thought you had several very compelling matches that were heightened coming out of this with the right person winning.
So this, I think you can categorize it in the category of like, oh man, we can't call them cinematic matches because that's one thing that was taking place during the pandemic. But maybe live theater type of matches, you know, like
the Shawn Michaels influence.
Shawn Michaels influence. I want to say like, you know, the Roman Reigns style of match as well, where like a lot of it is done for.
Like they had Seth like mic'd there, a lot of it so that you could hear like this being a big part of the match.
A lot of it is done for the camera with the intention of like, you know, audio being picked up as they're talking. It's a TV product. It's a scene, right? This is one of those, and it's very different from I think any of CM Punk's recent work, and I guess we could say recent in AEW.
He did this a few times with Gabe in like 03.
Is that right?
They love this.
But I consider it almost like a WWE specialty at this point. Like it's not always done well, as I think we've seen with like Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, for instance. But this was a case where it was done really well, in my opinion. Now, if it's not your cup of tea, then it's never going to be. But to me, I just look at my own reaction, but I also look at the crowd's reaction, and they loved this shit. They went crazy for every single like sort of plot point that was there.
That bracelet spot, like I'm not joking here. Like it was like stunning to me. Like it was a real eye opener in terms of like how invested people were just and getting that bracelet over to mean something so significant to this audience. They went wild.
And to me, I like this style because I recognize how much work and artistry is required to get to reactions like this. You know, even if it is like you want to call it in-ring acting, like there's a lot of groundwork that they did to attach meaning to the bracelet. And then I think they created in this match really perfect moments for the bracelet to come back up into the match. For one thing, the Anaconda Vice being a move that focuses on the wrist, I think is a perfect time for CM Punk to notice it. The sort of subtlety of like the bracelet kind of being lost, it's just all around the ring. We don't know that Seth has picked it up, but the moment that CM Punk is doing the GTS and then notices on the wrist, like that I thought was like really smartly done. And just like kind of hits you during a time in the match where you're not really expecting it. So I really love the ping pong of the bracelet from place to place in the match.
It's got 32,000 likes.
John just showed me a screenshot of the ref cam where CM Punk's looking really mad, and somebody at Joe
Mashups
commented Jack Perry's POV.
Pretty terrific tweet.
I thought it made for a really exciting and unpredictable close. And, this was a story that they didn't just rely on wrestling moves to tell, but they used a lot of acting and character work, which I think for CM Punk at this stage of his career is very valuable tool for him to have. And really, it's the basis of this entire storyline. All three of them are like, they're storytellers. And when you have
and they feel like they're going to be intertwined for several months. Like you have Punk and Rollins, you have the rematch, and you can do Drew and Rollins. Like you have all the combinations you can, and I think they're all stronger coming out of this by the end of it. I thought match-wise, I thought it was like a pretty good match, but it was very reliant.
You mean in-ring content-wise? Because what is the match?
Yeah, right? Like the storytelling to me really did lift this one for you, or it hurt. You might have had that reaction too. In terms of Punk coming back, he did not seem like a guy that like he wasn't doing like his springboard clothesline, I guess, but like
it wasn't that type of match, and I don't think it's that type of audience.
Didn't need it for this, but I also didn't feel like the guy was holding back in this match. Like he went out, he did a 17-minute match, and
with a lot of it, with a lot of it being laying down on the ground while like other people took the stage, for instance, like. Yeah, this is where I think, like, for CM Punk at however age he is, and maybe injury prone, we want to say, this sort of, like, style of in-ring storytelling is very effective for him. It got big reactions. I love the fact that he's demonstrating, like, flawed aspects of his character, which is he's highly emotional, and he gets too angry.
And the story of this was Drew letting his ego and pride get the best of him at Mania. This time it was Punk that let that get in the way of things.
Drew successfully manipulated and got under his skin. So, yeah. And then now Rollins is tied into this. So what do you think is the next...
Well, let me just say, like, I have been banging the drum on, like, using Cleveland for all it's worth. If Drew doesn't, just declare himself the biggest win over CM Punk anyone has ever had in Cleveland, Drew McIntyre.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
I think we're losing that on the Cleveland front. So there you have it. Damian Priest is with Finn Balor backstage, and Priest apologizes to Balor for earlier. And Balor says, I'm sorry too, and says that if you don't want me out there, I understand, but you just let me know and I'll be out there for you. And that was our setup for the World Heavyweight title match between Damian Priest and Gunther. With these guys got into it right away. I thought it took a lot for, like, I honestly thought that this was probably the best match on the show, but I thought it took a lot for the crowd was really struggling, I thought, in this.
Really?
I thought there was like the middle of this.
I didn't think so at all.
I thought these guys were beating the shit out of each other, and it just did not feel like it was not coming across to me. And granted,
I didn't sense. I mean, again, we weren't listening from the most ideal of like audio feeds. We were listening off of a TV that was like kind of hung up high, and whatever. Like so, but like from my perspective, I didn't think they let up this crowd.
Well, he hits a broken arrow onto Gunther, getting a 2 count, and then they get into the chops. And Gunther's chest is bleeding. And this is like a minor annoyance for him. Like he like nicked his finger. He's just like wiping it aside.
The announcers were trying to sell it as if like he was angry.
Yes.
He saw blood. Yeah.
So Priest misses him in the corner. Gunther hits him with the shotgun drop kick and a power bomb. And Priest comes back with a South of Heaven for a 2 count. And then Priest stops the sleeper and hits these big lariats. And Priest is just wailing on him. There's more big chops back and forth. And then suddenly Finn Balor has appeared at ringside. He was not summoned by Damian Priest. He has just popped up there. And then Gunther, they zoom in on his chest. And he sees it on the screen. And he just wipes it across his head. And Michael Cole yelled, "Gunther's a sicko." And Gunther then knocks Balor off the apron. Priest then pulls down the straps, which, I mean, lesson to all aspiring wrestlers. Always have straps.
Always have
Okay?
straps.
Easy pop. Easy pop, okay? The straps come down. Oh my God, now shit's on.
Always have straps or like an elbow pad.
Anything to make your audience feel like, oh man,
Shirt.
now it's time for this part of the match. So he nails Gunther with a big lariat, South of Heaven, when Finn Balor puts Gunther's foot onto the bottom rope. And then I love this, okay? If this was the Lee Fitting effect, then credit to him. Damian Priest does not see that the foot is on the rope. And my intuition is, okay, that's his head was turned, it's kind of there, but he does feel like a bit of an idiot when we can all see it. And then he looks and he watches the replay on the screen, and he turns, and Finn Balor's head is turned, and he gets you see his face literally turn to this evil grin, and he holds this grin. It's like, dude, his lip is like going up.
It's kind of his like demon.
Oh my God, it was great.
Okay, so you like that, right? Because I thought, to me, this was.
I did like that. I do not recall sometime where the guy just sees it in the screen on real time. I did not mind it.
So we are acknowledging the use of instant replay in professional wrestling. Is that right?
Not to this isn't the referee going back on a thing. It's just the guy seeing it.
That's my problem. If Damian Priest can see it, and if everybody can see it, I'm assuming the referee was also looking in a similar direction. If the referee could see that this infraction was made, why did he not call for a DQ? Like we've seen in the past, like with Eddie Guerrero matches, where he just you see somebody lay down with the chair next to him and they're DQ'd. What precedent is there? Okay, I'm assuming the referee actually saw this take place. Why didn't he DQ the match?
Here's my best explanation, okay? And this will go to a lot of professional wrestling, is that when a match is constructed, the idea is, how do we get the audience up and up and up for a grand finale? Yeah. And we are not going to break that pyramid with, oh, this didn't make sense. That didn't make sense. I'm not saying I agree with that, but that is not
most of our reviews are based off of breaking down things that.
Well, I think it's a fair complaint. I'm not disagreeing with your complaint. I'm only stating that they got a great reaction out of this, and more important, the audience, they got to see a major turn, and that's all they cared about.
Yeah, I just think it's like.
Would you DQ someone for putting the foot on the rope? Is that a DQ infraction?
If somebody helped them put a foot on the rope, yeah, I do think that's a DQ.
Of all the things we see.
I've seen matches DQ'd for less. Not at SummerSlam. Well, you know what?
What about using the desk on the floor?
That's cool. We have an explanation. This is championship.
What about the hydration station being used as a weapon?
The hydration station happened to be there, okay? You're not using the station to, whatever. We have a reasonable explanation, okay? It is championship rules. It is referee's discretion. That's all you need to say.
So the foot is put on the rope, and Damian Priest realizes this prick. He's got 2 pricks to deal with in the Judgment Day. And then, as Priest is staring at Balor, Gunther goes for the sleeper. But Priest fights out of it, reversing on top. This felt like the audience was the most behind Damian Priest they've been this whole run. Yeah. And he then lunges for Finn Balor. And there was a huge pop. Just the idea he was going to get his hands on Finn Balor. and he's stopped by Gunther, who powerbombs Priest, puts him in the sleeper, and the arm goes down at 16:38 as Gunther wins the heavyweight championship. I thought this was the match of the show.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, for me, definitely. I think it was like a classic Gunther style of match. Very loud and physical.
I thought Priest did great. Like, this guy has had an uphill climb during this run, but I think by the end of it, I'm less concerned about him post-title than I was maybe a month or two ago. And I think he came off really well here, and he's got a big program with Balor. And I think that this sets up not the end of the Judgment Day, but it's Finn Balor's Judgment Day with Dominic, with JD, and maybe they add somebody else. But it's Rhea and Damian that are out of the group.
I like that. Interesting. Yeah. You're taking like maybe the two most over guys out of the group, but that makes for an effective heel stable.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. The match itself, I thought. I've been kind of like mixed on Damian Priest's run up until this point. I think he's like had bright moments, but to me, he's never felt like fully there as like the guy, you know, in the role. I think they got there tonight. Like, there were moments in here where he truly felt special, and he truly felt like he had the admiration and certainly the sympathy of the crowd. And for me, it was the moment where he was caught up in that choke, the first one, and you think the match is over already, and then like he sold that choke so well, struggled in that choke so well, and like just kind of almost told you a little story just by being in that choke. And the moment he powered up out of that choke, this whole arena,
they were so behind him to get out of that. And maybe we should go back. Like, as much as that match was like really quiet with Gunther and Balor, like really that sleeper, like the crowd took that sleeper as a serious submission hold, and the fact that was the title switch, like the sleeper, like they got that sleeper to where they wanted it to be, and probably is going to be one of, if not the go-to for him.
So they're ending this Damian Priest reign, I think, having accomplished what they set out to do. He's now maybe at the most over he's been in his career, even without the championship. The goal now is to take him even further. And I always think like maybe a point where
what if Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley show up with like rifles on Raw or something? Like, they just I don't know, blow torches. Okay,
where are they? What state are they in?
I think they're in Ohio still. I think that's
Cincinnati. I guess you can carry.
They just show up and they're ready to kill folks. Okay, they're going for Finn. They're going for Dom. And they're going to start with JD.
I think for me, like, Priest has always been lacking in the promo department. I think he just like hasn't really found like an authentic voice yet. And, you know, does he have enough story material to change that here? I don't know. But like in-ring wise, like they put him in the best position they could have once they've kind of taken the belt off of him.
So there you go. Very good match, I thought, overall. And you got yet another title change. That made 4 on the show that they swapped.
Yeah.
Miz and R-Truth come out to announce the attendance that they so the announced attendance was 57,791. The last WrestleTix number was 55,558. So I mean, pretty close in the vicinity of where they are. We're kind of, they have done some big exaggerations like they did for Mania this year, but some of them coming closer. So I don't know if they have a way that
it's to the point where like, if you are exaggerating, like, it's not really changing the perception of anything. So
no. And I would be sure that they have a breakdown that gets them to 50. I don't think they're pulling a number just out of nowhere.
Right.
Mania, I think, was a lot harder because they were going crazy on that one. And yeah, they did a spot where A-Town Down Under confronted Miz and R-Truth. Truth mentioned it's the home of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and so he thought that A-Town Down Under were Ricky and Robert, the Rock and Roll Express. And that led to Jelly Roll being insulted along with Cleveland. So Jelly Roll makes his way into the ring, attacks Austin Theory with chair shots, a choke slam, and then they do a triple 5-knuckle shuffle. And I thought this was short and inoffensive. And we were also in our lift on the way back. So we watched this in like 2 times the speed to catch up. So we weren't sitting through this in the arena.
Yeah. They just love, like, you know, getting celebrities involved in various ways, and we're seeing a lot more sort of like wrestling involvement with celebrities, not just like, I guess, shots in the crowd.
They go to the back. Main event is Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa. Cody is getting ready. He's got Pharaoh, and he walks by, and they're off to the corner, just like the
Machine Gun Anderson.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, well, I guess not the other Machine Gun Anderson.
Machine Gun Anderson.
Yeah.
Arn Anderson is over there, stands Glock. and he tells Cody that his friends are on the way. So very very tough to set up this match when you're pretty much stating don't take anything serious until the run-ins begin, which is kind of what Bloodline rules is. Yeah. Don't take anything seriously until they show up. And it was kind of just like the match was going. Like this was all around the run-ins and the final chapter at the end of the match.
As soon as they announced Bloodline rules, that's code for you're going to see a bunch of surprise run-ins. Yeah. And okay, as long as you can deliver on the surprise, then Bloodline rules is still a draw. But the first 30, I don't know how long, 20 minutes?
I didn't actually get the time.
Whatever.
This was definitely the longest match.
First portion of the match until the run-ins is going to be pretty meaningless. And I couldn't really get into it.
Yeah, I thought the first half of this, like, it was just kind of going along. I can't say it stood out in, like, a big way. It was a lot of Solo getting, 29 minutes and 10 seconds. Where you read this one.
It was Solo Sikoa working a Roman Reigns style of match in that it was, like, kind of, like, slow. He was, like, doing a lot of talking in between moves. But, like, Roman has tenure and, like, has main evented.
And he's a more dynamic performer. Like, let's just be honest, than Solo Sikoa.
He's just kind of earned the rank to be, like, of a guy who I think is still captivating even when he's just walking around not doing much. Solo, it's still tough, I think, for a lot of people to buy him in this world title contender level. And I certainly found it tough to buy him playing this sort of Roman Reigns type of style of match.
One of the highlights for me was Cody going for this moonsault off the top turnbuckle in the ring, and the commentators had to break this thing down like it was like an Olympian, like doing his final routine. It's like Michael Cole's yelling, it was a moonsault, but it ended in a cross body. It was like sideways, and they're like breaking this down, and then Corey Graves is like, kind of looked like a Terry Funk moonsault. By the end of this, if Cody rewatches this, he's retiring that moonsault just based on Cole and Graves' reaction to it. So the Tongans run in first, and Rhodes still kicks out after their attack. Kevin Owens, who was in town,
that's Sami Zayn.
Did he have a flat tire on the way to Cleveland Brown Stadium? He made it.
Fixed it, yep.
Runs out, huge pop, followed by Randy Orton, huge pop. Then a Crossroads is hit. Sikoa kicks out as Owens and Orton take the Tongans out. And Cody is alone, grabs the steps and uses them as a weapon. And then, as he lifts them over his head, Solo spears him. And Sikoa gets stopped with the steps, hits two more Crossroads when Jacob Fatu runs into the ring. And he attacks Cody, hits this beautiful moonsault. Cody kicks out of that. And so Cody is placed onto the desk by Jacob Fatu, and this became really the big spot of the match to discuss. Jacob Fatu does a giant splash off the top of the turnbuckle, putting Cody through the desk, and he comes down, and he immediately, it looked like he was grabbing his shin as opposed to the ankle, and he is screaming, and he's just, on the one hand, this made sense to take him out of the match. Mm-hmm. At the other way, I can't envision them putting Jacob Fatu, this monster, the werewolf, to be selling like this. Right. That I almost thought for sure he had to have been hurt here.
And Levesque did.
Paul Levesque did say he was hurt. Not sure how serious. Now, it's Paul Levesque stating that, but I mean, I kind of had the benefit of the doubt here that this could have been a real injury, which hopefully is not.
We'll find out soon.
Not the case, because I mean, this guy's in the role of his life here, and
they need him.
He came down. I mean, it's a tough spot to pull off, but we will see. This did take him out of the match, and you did have to take him out of the match somehow. So
yeah, but Roman was also going to be there, so
that's true. Like that could have been. It could have been. He takes out Jacob Fatu and then takes out Sikoa. But
interesting.
We're left to the two. And Sikoa hits a splash, and Cody collapses, avoiding the Samoan spike, but then manages a super kick and Cody cutter off the top, when all of a sudden, Roman reigns, and his new theme plays.
Yeah.
And out comes the OTC.
Which you believe stands for what? On the clock.
Oh, I was going to go with...
off the record.
Off to censor. We assumed that this is like original tribal chief,
Yeah, I guess.
one tribal chief maybe. We will find out. Usually when they introduce an acronym like this for a new marketing campaign, Michael Cole yells it out about 100 times. He never said this. He was just like, it's the tribal chief. It's Roman Reigns. So we didn't get the. I'm sure maybe.
So yeah, chat room saying original tribal chief.
Original. Okay. So he runs into the ring, Superman punch onto Solo Sikoa, gigantic pop. I mean, on this night, the dreams of Roman Reigns becoming the top babyface of this company were met for this night, and we knew in the run-up to this it was going to be really big. My one thought was that they were going to get so much heat on Cody Rhodes, and Orton is left, Owens is left, that we would get this whole place chanting "We want Roman" when they hit that music, and they really didn't build up to.
So again,
I'm sure there were some chants, but I wanted like deafening.
But again, we don't know the Jacob Fatu of it all, right?
You're right. You're right. That
could have been a two on
it
one.
could have been 2-on-1.
It probably was a 2-on-1.
You're right.
Down.
You're right.
And
As you state that probably would have been where they go, because the music just kind of comes out of nowhere. It's not like there was this crescendo.
Yeah. And if that's the case, can you imagine the scrambling backstage? Like the guy who we need in the last spot of the evening is just taken out. How do we set this up?
I think you're 100% right.
Yeah.
So he spears Solo, and then he just eyes Cody, who's watching this. Sikoa is out, and Cody walks over, one more crossroads to win the match. 29 minutes and 10 seconds. This was all about Roman Reigns. I thought he was, as a match, I can't say this was one of like Cody's like better,
it was not
title matches. And 29 minutes with Solo, like that was a lot. That was a lot to go to. You did have some smoke and mirrors here post run-ins. But ultimately, this audience was pretty happy getting Roman Reigns, and now you kick off the whole Bloodline feud. And I think it would have been maybe like overkill to introduce the Usos here. I think that's a future. Just the three of them finding themselves in the ring.
It's weeks of TV that you
could. You could do a separate Jimmy comes back, and then eventually you could build to that. I think that's way.
Yep.
You've got weeks, if not longer, till you get to that.
I thought the match was kind of made difficult. Number one, because of the stipulation. Number two, because I think Solo Sikoa just doesn't have the aura to carry like a Roman Reigns style of match. And I think that might have been a fault. Like maybe he shouldn't have worked a Roman Reigns style of match, and he should have come up with like a more dynamic, interesting, violent style. It's easy to like maybe lay criticism on him, but I think we also have to remind ourselves this guy debuted either very close to, if not during NXT 2.0.
Yes.
Like he's a relatively brand new project, and the fact that we could even talk about him as a SummerSlam main eventer is kind of crazy. So he has a lot of years, I think, to reach his final form. But tonight, this was, if we could just comment on this match, it was not the match of the night, which I think, the main event always strives to be, and I would even say kind of far from it. But it delivered on what it paid off on, I think, what it promised and what it teased. And it's that Roman Reigns came back here, begin a feud with Solo Sikoa, kind of gave you like, the mutual respect stuff between Roman Reigns and Cody. And,
how did you feel about the show by the end of it?
I think I enjoyed the show overall. I thought Cody and Priest delivered like the in-ring sort of like quality that you might expect. Now, that match alone, delivering that type of style of match, is that enough for a lot of people? Questionable. But I do feel like Seth and Drew and Punk delivered like tremendous value in terms of storytelling and payoff there. This show was about giving you results and giving you like significant title wins. It was about crowning a lot of like sort of their next generation guys, or at least like long-term projects, like an LA Knight. Nia Jax, I think you can consider. Bron Breakker, certainly. And who was the fourth person that won a title?
You said Nia, LA Knight, Bron Breakker.
Yeah, is that it?
And who was the fourth? Gunther.
Gunther, that's right, yeah. And, to me, all of that felt like significant, like worth the admission.
The title changes are not like too frequent. Like in this version of WWE, they're pretty infrequent. And you throw in the Bloodline title change on Friday. Like they swapped a lot this weekend to probably set up a lot of stories.
They gave you newsworthy items, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, I would say like as a show, I enjoyed the show. It gave you a lot of like, your moments that these WWE shows are really like centered around. I didn't think this was like some classic SummerSlam show, but I found myself like I enjoyed the show, but I also see it as probably like a divisive show with people that some people are not. Some people are tuning in and they want to see excellent wrestling for 3-4 hours, and for other like this was a very like moment heavy, storyline heavy show.
I tend to think like WrestleMania and SummerSlam are those types of shows though. They're season finales, right? You know, they're the shows where you get like the big turns. You get the like what is it? Dominic. You know, that was the big payoff there too, right? And in-ring quality, I almost you should have both ideally, you know, for everything.
Yeah,
Now,
I don't think you want to have one at the expense of the other. Like you want to have both that kind of complement each
did you
other.
think
And
there
that's
were any matches that were actually bad?
actually bad on the show?
Or just even like mediocre? I would say the first portion of the Bloodline match was mediocre.
Oh, that yeah, I would call that match mediocre until the big pops at the end. Breaker and Zayn, just because I was just
5-minute match, yeah.
it was
TV
short.
match.
Yeah, it was like it was closer to it was just less than I expected from it, but it served its purpose. Like it was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we talk about these shows, I think so much of it is dependent on your expectation going in. But I again, for me, it's mainly about like how captivating was the show, how much did the crowd respond to it, and I would say it's a thumbs up show if you're just grading by those metrics.
One other note from the press conference I did want to mention. It was right at the end when Levesque was asked, would this be the last one-night SummerSlam? And also asked the idea about like other two-night PLEs such as Royal Rumble. And he essentially said this will probably be the last one-night SummerSlam, and they're always open to the possibilities. I think Royal Rumble, if they're going that direction, is the obvious one you could expand. But let me ask you, like this weekend, even incorporating if they had those tag title matches, I don't know if I would have wanted like 2 nights of the stories that they had. Now, if you were peaking for 2 nights, you probably would have more in your arsenal to have ready for a weekend like this. But at the end of the day, would they have done successful 2 nights here? Maybe they're not doing like 55,000 both nights, but if they're doing 40,000 both nights, that's 80,000 cumulative. Like it's.
You think they would do 40,000 both nights?
I feel they would.
I think they would need more. They would.
Well, they're
need
going to have. Let's remember next year they've got a John Cena match.
Yeah.
That can be your main event on your first or second night, and they've got that for Mania. They've got that for SummerSlam.
I guess all they really need is like 2 main hooks, and if you were to split at least this tonight's show, like the Punk Drew match could have headlined one of the nights.
Definitely.
Then you could have had the return of Roman Reigns and Cody. Yeah.
It's hard to judge because they were building this for one card, so it's hard to like. Obviously, you're not splitting this into 2 nights.
But I think Roman would have come back sooner, perhaps, and maybe you would have a J match. You would, yeah, I could see it being a 2-night thing.
All right, those are our thoughts on SummerSlam 2024. We're gonna go through some of your feedback on the forum.
No calls tonight, guys. It's just a bit late here, and we do have to try to wake up early, but we are going to get to some written feedback over at forum.postwrestling.com, available to all of our Post Wrestling Cafe patrons. So postwrestlingcafe.com if you like these shows. Hey, we got super chats too, actually, to start
Let's
things
do the
off.
super chats.
Thank you very much to Brent Brisebois, who sends $20 Canadian, hoping for you guys to move that bobblehead out of the shop because it has Chief Wahoo on it. Okay, you're referring to the Cleveland Indians.
That's Omar Vizquel.
Omar Vizquel bobblehead. Now, I guess, yes, this is now...
Let me say, the name has changed, but there are still many people that proudly wear the old logo, as we saw at the game.
I don't think it means anything. It's just like, it's a retro memorabilia. And sorry, I just took this from the Airbnb that we're at. I think we should be sophisticated enough to where we could still like put old merchandise in our houses and like not have it really mean anything more than that.
I think so.
So that's just kind of our thoughts on that. But Ben also sends another $20 to say Logan Paul is one of the worst things to come out of Cleveland since Chief Wahoo.
Oh boy. Okay. Well,
I guess is he talking about the logo?
The logo
being called, is the logo's name Chief Wahoo?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ben, for the support and sharing some of your thoughts. Let's go to Jay Boba 28, who sends $5 to say, "Hey guys, do you see CM Punk and Drew McIntyre doing a double turn by the end of their rivalry? Punk as a heel during Mania season next year would be amazing."
At a certain time, you could. I wouldn't be rushing to that. Not when he's getting like there's no need for that right now.
I think it's kind of heading towards that direction of a double turn, like because Punk is showing again flawed character, whereas like Drew McIntyre is in the phase where if he wanted to turn tomorrow, I think the audience would take it because he makes people laugh, you know, and he's just entertaining and people recognize the talent. But I think Mania would be a good time for perhaps to explore that direction. Thank you very much. Let's go to forum.postwrestling.com.
Jeremy in Texas starts us off. I prefer storylines over in-ring action, so to me, SummerSlam was a good show. I think Solo's been doing a great job in this role, but going into the match, it was difficult for me to see him main eventing the third, maybe second biggest show of the year. It almost seemed like it was Cody Rhodes in a Bloodline rules match with Solo getting third billing behind the champ and the stipulation. In the end, it delivered, and the return everyone was anticipating and advanced the story. A lot of title changes. I don't think they've swapped 4 titles in a show since the Attitude Era. Appreciate the coverage. I hope Wai enjoyed his SummerSlam experience more than his WrestleMania experience.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed my WrestleMania experience fine. I mean, I think I had a great time at both places. So, but thank you, Jeremy. Let's go to Robbie from London, who says, I must say I did enjoy this the most of the 3 or 4, if you count Mania as 2 shows, WWE shows I've watched this year. I don't love that Dom was clearly cheating, but he's still the one to turn on Rhea. But I enjoyed the match. I also think the main event took its time, but I did love seeing Roman return. He's my fave WWE guy for the last decade. Do you think Roman Reigns is back full time, or is he just here and there?
I don't imagine he's going to be, on every single TV.
I think he works the same schedule.
Yeah.
There's less pressure on him to be on every show.
I would say like maybe you'll get some amped up like appearances and stuff, but I don't think it's going to be a dramatic shift in, like him working every week or anything like that. But, let's remember like SmackDown, they've got the big push going on to USA, and I'm sure like they're going to want to have all their big guns on the kickoff for SmackDown in the fall season, and Roman being one of them. I mean, it makes sense for him to be back in a prominent role.
Do you think he gets moved to Netflix next year? Or do you keep him on USA?
I would be loading up everything for that Netflix show. Like that first show, I could see them just stockpiling everybody on there. Like
Cena's going to be on Netflix though. He seems to suggest,
I think that's a guarantee. Yeah, but like I would not have this hard and fast rule.
Right.
Like especially for the first few weeks on Netflix, you really want to get that thing off to as strong a start as possible. Brian in New Jersey, I thought it was a good show overall, stronger booking than wrestling, but I thought it had a good amount of quality action. Priest and Gunther was my match of the night, a great hoss battle between them with a more shocking and effective turn. I like the story told in Drew and Punk. Cody versus Solo was predictable, but still executed the biggest moment right. I'm pretty compelled by what Roman Reigns' story is going forward, as he's well positioned for a face run with the crowd clearly behind him and that more heroic sounding music.
Go to Muggin, who says SummerSlam expertly paid off several things, starting with the second coming of Tribal Jesus. Triple H succeeded where the old man failed miserably by making Roman Reigns an uber babyface. The main event didn't hit that gear until the tail end. Is the rubber match on the cards for Bad Blood?
Between
Cody and Roman.
Bad Blood's an interesting option. That's in Atlanta in October.
Not while Roman's a babyface. I know Cody hinted towards it, but I think that's talking about the future. I can't see them doing the match.
You do, if you're not going to it, you do need a reason to not go to it.
Yeah. Unless he's talking about Cody and Solo having a rubber match. How often have Cody and Solo had matches?
They had the one before Mania last year.
Have they had another?
This might have been the second.
Maybe he's talking about
if you're
Cody.
excluding like live events, I'm sure.
Okay, let's play that out then. Do we see Cody and Solo do another match?
I'm not dying for it.
I'm not clamoring for it either.
No.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I think, if all things were equal tonight, like having a Cody Jacob Fatu match, I think that unfortunately was, once Jacob Fatu came in, that was the performer people wanted to see.
I think Solo's next big match is Roman.
If they do a Cody Roman match before the end of the year, honestly, Atlanta for certain reasons would make sense. You got a Saudi show to headline too. Like that's the big show. That's a massive show, and it needs a massive match on it.
Does Arn come back for Atlanta?
Oh God, yeah. Maybe
Arn
goes to Saudi.
Cody lives in Atlanta now, right?
Oh yeah, like that's
the whole family could be there. You could bring the dog back.
Well, One's a $50 million show. I don't know what the State Farm Arena is piling up. Okay, let's go to Ani here. Quite enjoyed SummerSlam. Did a good job of either wrapping up all the post-Mania storylines or moving them on to the next chapter. This was a show that rewarded your investment in the TV shows over the last few months. You could feel the influence of the Bloodline in a lot of matches on the show. Their brand of shenanigans was ubiquitous throughout the show, and I was quite captivated by Punk's return to the ring. And the bracelet stuff kind of worked for me, as he's the sort of person to place importance in totems. However, that match also opted for the Bloodline drama route instead of being something grittier. Hope Punk can stay healthy until we can get a blow-off and a cathartic babyface win.
Interesting. Yeah, there's a mix of reactions to like that type of match, and maybe there's a more sort of middle ground that they can find that might satisfy everybody. So
I like when you have that discussion coming out of a match. It could work for some people. It's not everyone's cup of tea either.
let's go to Ian from Best Film Ever. Good morning, gentlemen. Really enjoyed SummerSlam. Punk versus Drew was the main event, and I think it really put the other matches in a hole to compensate. I felt Cody versus Solo was the most significantly affected of the two, as Bloodline rules. As with Bloodline rules, the audience knows nothing's going to happen until the run-ins. Doesn't it condition the audience to not bite on anything until the shenanigans start? Yeah,
that's the risk you run in. I mean, it's it's a in a nutshell, yes. I think it does kind of set that up. But you know what? That was the same caveat for Cody and Roman, and I would have to go back and watch that. But it's like I didn't feel like that dragged before the run-ins either.
I almost wish like Bloodline rules was something a bit more formal, where like you can have 3 different run-ins. You have an allotment of 3 secret people unannounced beforehand that you can have save you at a given point in a match at a determined interval. Like make it like a mini war games, for instance.
Look, War Games has the same handicap that like.
Well, you can't even do a pinfall.
You can't do near falls. Like
because they don't work until
you're relying on the performers to keep that interest until like the stakes begin.
Yeah, and it's a similar problem, I guess, here. The one that sticks in my craw, though, Damian Priest actively rolling Gunther towards the ropes for the Finn Balor leg spot when he could have rolled him a quarter rotation towards him and been far more logical for the character. Yeah. I mean, hard to, I think, say like what was working against the wrestler that prevented them from going, I don't know, like 2 feet over from one position to another. Like I've never been in a wrestling ring. I have no idea how difficult that might be. So I guess I cut him a little bit of slack for something like that.
Last one is Jordan from the Bronx. I wanted Punk and Drew to be more of a straight up brawl. Instead, there was much more focus on bracelet gate. Punk crashing out over it was too deep into wrestling acting that the pandemic era WWE shows leaned into. I felt like Seth didn't add much to this and was more distracting than anything. Not for me. Gunther Priest was the type of brawl that I wanted. I wish that Priest was able to have these kinds of matches during his run, but Gunther's time is now. Match of the night. A half hour of Solo Sikoa main eventing wrestling was pretty rough. Roman came back as expected and set up the next chapter in the Bloodline story. Here's hoping that Jacob Fatu is not too seriously injured.
Yeah, this seems like one of the prevailing sort of topics coming out of the show is whether or not the acting in the CM Punk Drew match was too much. And again, I think if he had this exact same match in AEW, I think it would have been met with so much more criticism. I think in AEW, you've seen this sort of match there with the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega and Hangman Page, like their tag team matches. There's acting there, but there's enough wrestling, special, like high quality wrestling, I guess we could say,
right,
to satisfy everybody. In the WWE, I think there's less emphasis and also less expectation for that sort of high quality wrestling and more about like high quality storytelling, I guess you could say. So I do think it's because of the promotion that he's in. And again, do they consider it a problem? If they hear enough feedback like Jordan's, then yeah. But something tells me because of all the Roman Reigns style matches we've had, they don't consider it a problem. And this is exactly what they wanted.
All right, well, there you go, everyone. That was SummerSlam, and that was our trip to Cleveland. And before we sign off, I want to give a massive thank you to 2 people in particular, Neil Flanagan and Andrew Thompson, who did just stellar work this weekend on the site. We were actually like really shorthanded the last couple of days, and those 2 just did a remarkable job just keeping everything up to date on the site. So I just want to thank
Postwrestling.com, everybody. We're not just a podcast. We're not just a YouTube channel. We're a full-fledged pro wrestling news website. So please go check it out. Read your articles. Get all your news right there.
There you go. So thanks to everyone. We appreciate all of you. You are able to make us be able to do trips like this. So we appreciate all of you. If you're so inclined, check us out. Support us. PostWrestlingCafe.com. And we are going to be back Monday night after Raw.
Yeah.
I think in Cincinnati. Could be. It's late. That's it for us.
The Post Wrestling Cafe this month, we should very quickly go over. We have continued G1 coverage throughout the course of July. So reviews for every single card that takes place. A lot of you guys might not have time to catch up on the G1, especially on a weekend like this. Listen to our post shows from our very, very smart experts that are doing these reviews.
WH Park and Eric Marcotte will have a show out sometime on Sunday going over this weekend's card. So that's next in the lineup.
Yep. And then we also have John and I, we do retro reviews every 2 weeks. And this month we just talked about WWF's Unforgiven in the middle of the WF WCW invasion, which has been a lot of fun. And in 2 weeks time, we're going to do WrestleMania 10.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. So we're looking forward to that. And then Ask Away also coming up this month.
Ask Away. We've got Rewind to SmackDown, which is the exclusive place where we do our SmackDown reviews every Friday. We got video streams for that as well. And then Saturday, Kate and Cito do Collision, which will be coming out tomorrow this week.
Yes. All right, everyone. That is it for us. We're going to sign off. A big thank you, as always, to Wai Ting for making this look so great. And that is it. We will speak with you back in Toronto.